So welcome to this workshop on how public procurement can boost the social and circular economy. I'm very glad you could join us today. My name is Neva Nachtigal. I'm the director of RREUSE, the co-organizer of this workshop, together with our member and Spanish network, RREUSE. As you must have seen in the program, we are doing this workshop in two parts. The first part is focused more on EU perspective and Europe-wide conversation regarding public procurement. And then in the second part, we will turn our focus onto the Spanish law, which is quite an exciting development, and we will talk about how it's been going, what kind of impact it has had. And so there will be a rotation after the first part. There will be a little bit of commotion here, so I beg your patience, but so that you know this is how we designed the workshop. So first 1 hour with this esteemed panel here to my right. Without further ado, I would like to begin with the person next to me. This is Mr. Danko Aleksic. He is the project coordinator at EuroCities, which is a network of 200 of Europe's major cities from 38 countries. And together they represent 130 million people. So it's a very relevant speaker today. Welcome, Danko. Next, we have Valentina Caimi, who is an independent consultant and link in Europe, but also project manager and senior expert at EIDL, which is the European Association for Information on Local Development. And Valentina, as we will speak shortly, she has just co-authored a very important study on public procurement. So fresh off the press, we could say. Thank you for joining us, Valentina, and welcome. Then we have Claire Downey from our own network. She's the Policy and Research Director at Rediscovery Centre Ireland. This is the National Centre for the Circular Economy in Ireland, and also a member organization of Community Resources Network Ireland, which is a network that's our direct member, I would say. So we will be referring to both organizations as we continue. And last but definitely not least, Simone Schiru, a policy officer at RREUSE, so my direct colleague who works on the public procurement portfolio for our network. And as a reminder, we are a network of social enterprises active in reuse, repair, and recycling. But maybe before we kick it off with questions, I'm curious about the audience, just to see who here is from the social economy, so from social enterprises, just if we could have a show of hands to see. Okay. Big interest, mostly from social enterprises. And who here is from local authorities? Oh, sorry, from public authorities, be it local or national or... All right. Welcome. Great that you could join us. I hope it will be enriching for everyone. And of course, we also have the category other. Very happy to have everybody here, including a member of the European Parliament. So we have a very great panel as well as composition of audience. Now, in this first part that I will moderate, where we will talk specifically about procuring with purpose and the social, environmental, and economic value of buying from social enterprises, I proposed, and the panelists accepted the challenge, that we will, instead of having longer presentations, that we will keep this quite dynamic. And so the big challenge I posed them is that they keep their interventions to 2 minutes each, so that we will go through a lot of questions, hopefully, and rotate. So you will see me literally looking at the stopwatch and reminding them every now and then that their time is running out. But that is all so that we can then also keep some time, hopefully, for interaction with the audience. So please also think about the questions you might want to ask. And yeah, without further ado, now let's get right to it. So for RREUSE, public procurement and improving access to public procurement for social enterprises is one of our major advocacy points, and the way we try to represent the interests of our members. And one of the things we see is that the relationship between the social economy and local authorities is really fundamental to guarantee access to public procurement opportunities. Yet, as reported by the European Commission itself, sustainable public procurement lacks ambitious implementation at the local level. And this is one of the things that we will talk about along with many others. And so to begin with, let's make it clear, I will turn to Claire first. Let's make it clear to begin with what's in it for public authorities when they procure from social enterprises in the circular economy. And specifically, I know that Rediscovery Center and CRNI have excellent examples of the social, environmental, and economic impact that can be generated with public procurement contracts. I'm trying to establish eye contact, but it's not really possible. So Claire, please share with the audience one of the many examples that illustrate the impact that you have generated in Ireland as an inspiration.
Certainly. So first of all, I think there are obviously a lot of benefits to social and public procurement. The big one is that you're directing investment into environmental and social outcomes, and that sends a really strong signal to the market. The other one is that the local authorities or public sector can have direct control over meeting their own targets, be it, for example, in Ireland, we expect to see national reuse targets. It's an investment in community as well and the community impacts, and it supports growth in the market. And it's that last one that I have a case study about that I think is quite interesting. So we were involved in a project that was led by Community Resources Network, and the contracting authority was the Waste Permit Office, which is based in the centre of Ireland, and they were moving into a new office space. And they wanted to furnish their new offices with 100% upcycled and refurbished furniture. There were no social clauses, but this was the, I suppose, circular clause. And the tender value was under 25,000 euros, so it was a request for quotation. It didn't go for publication, and that's important too because it was accessible to smaller scale suppliers. And what was also very important about the format of this tender was that it allowed for consortiums. So when they went to market and asked for 3 quotations, no one supplier was able to furnish their entire office. And so Community Resources Network put together a consortium approach. In the end, we required 10 suppliers to meet the requirements of 97 pieces of furniture, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the market is only emerging in Ireland. The impact of the project was to save 2,600 kilos of carbon, and we calculated that using the RS excellent carbon calculation tool. And around 20,000 euro of the total value of the tender went to social enterprises working in this area, and that helped them to support trainees and to obtain vocational training, on-the-job training in the furniture workshop. Rediscovery Centre was one of the largest suppliers, so we were able to support our own furniture workshop. Okay.
We're immediately put to the test. It's very difficult to keep it up.
That's 2 minutes already.
That was more than 2 minutes already. It's a big challenge. If there's a pressing matter you would still like to add, please go ahead. Since you had the pilot run, thank you very much.
Yeah, just the lessons were around the importance of facilitating smaller contractors. I think that was really important for that project.
Thank you, Claire. It is indeed a very challenging proposition to keep it to 2 minutes. So, Simone, let's see. So at RREUSE, we're currently conducting research on public procurement that's funded by the European Climate Foundation. And we will publish a report next year that, of course, you will all be very welcome to read. But for now, let's give the audience a sneak preview of a few sectors that we are examining, as well as sharing some preliminary findings. There you go.
Yes, thank you. And indeed, as first general thought, this report will come in very handy in a context where there is a lack of data on the impact of public procurement to upscale the social economy and therefore contribute to public objectives. So in this report, we will tackle specific sectors that are known to be polluting, and we will show with case studies involving social enterprises how they contribute to green some of these sectors. So we're talking of the construction sector, textile, furniture, and we can already share some of the preliminary findings. I'll do that on behalf of the team, of course, and our colleague Oscar, who is not here in San Sebastian, but is leading this work. And as some of you will probably relate to this, one of the preliminary funding that we're experiencing is that public procurers do not combine social, climate, and environmental considerations into public procurement. So they miss out on the opportunity to mobilize this instrument to achieve these public objectives, where we know that reuse and repair activities, they have huge climate benefits. So there is a lot of missed potential on this. And the second preliminary funding, and this is a little bit more technical, is that framework agreements can play a great role in improving access to public procurement for social enterprises. So in very simple terms, we can think of framework agreements as instruments to streamline terms and conditions for public procurement within a specific time frame, and often for multiple public authorities. So by streamlining these terms and conditions, basically we simplify public procurement processes, facilitate social enterprises access to such opportunities, but also we make sure the public procurers have a common understanding of the social economy and what public procurement can achieve. And finally, this also helps to gather data, making sure that people gather data the same way, makes it easier to share, and so forth.
Thank you, Simone. Well done. I hope translators are agreeing with that. It's a tricky balance, but thank you. Danko, having heard these examples from the perspective of social economy actors, could you speak briefly, of course, about some best practices of public procurement for the benefit of social economy actors among the 200 cities that are united in your organization? And I'm sure there are very many practices, so please keep it short, and then we can exchange also later with the audience.
Okay, so let's check my ability to keep myself in 2 minutes. Yes, of course, being in touch with more than 200 cities, as you mentioned, so we learned that the European cities are increasingly prioritizing sustainable, digital, and socially responsible procurement practices. But of course, focus areas are different. For example, Burgas municipality, our member, emphasizes digital procurement. Helsinki has ambitious plan to become climate neutral by 2030, including through procurement in sustainable mobility and circular construction. Gothenburg is focusing on procuring electric trucks for waste collection, while Oslo is interested in integrating social responsibility into procurement. I would like to stress this case of a municipality of Oslo, city of Oslo. For example, they have introduced something which is called the Oslo model. That is a standardized contract used by the city in procurement of construction services, and main aim is to combat work-related crime, which is known in Norway as social dumping. Also within Eurocities, so we have 6 so-called forums. For example, for our Economic Development Forum, one of priorities is local retail. Which is composed of small businesses and small and medium enterprises, which creates local employment and allows more agile and secure supply chain within a European territory. And recently we published a call for study visit on local retails, so inviting cities who have best practices to share with others and who would like their best practices to be discussed with a larger European audience. Bologna works on a participatory budgeting tool, which is an innovative mechanism aiming to involve citizens in the decision-making process regarding public budget. And also within big buyers, which we will mention later, we will have a community of practice on social procurement.
Great, so many different types. Very well done, thank you. So many different areas, like we also talked about in the research that we are doing. And now turning to the research that you just recently conducted, Valentina, One of the research questions in your study, and this was done for the European Parliament, is whether the instruments included in the 2014 Public Procurement Directive facilitate the participation of social economy enterprises in public procurement. And could you please share what are your key findings in this regard?
Yes. So thank you very much for the invitation. Yes, indeed, the Public Procurement Directive contains at least 5 instruments to facilitate the participation of social economy enterprises. So, reserved contracts for the social and professional inclusion of persons with disabilities and people in vulnerable situations. Division into lots. This is a main instrument to facilitate the participation of SMEs, and most of social economy enterprises are SMEs. Contract performance clauses, which apply not only to social economy enterprises, but to any economic operator, but also social economy enterprises can, they are also useful for them. Then this is something, the last 2 are not very well known. So preliminary market consultations. Preliminary market consultations are dialogues that a contracting authority can establish with potential bidders, but also experts, also stakeholders, such as, depending on the tender, it can be trade unions, social partners, group of users, but also social economy enterprises. And during these meetings, it is possible that, for example, social economy enterprises, if they participate, they can meet also traditional companies and, for example, form a consortium with them or participate as a subcontractor. So the last instrument is subcontracting. So the instruments exist. Are they used often? No, it depends a lot on contracting authorities. Some instruments are used more than others. We constantly need to raise awareness and build the capacity.
Thank you. And now, Simone, zooming out again to our whole network of social enterprises that we represent, what do our members tell us about the main obstacles they face in trying to access public procurement opportunities? And how could the EU and national institutions mitigate these obstacles?
Yes, so some of these points that I will mention are also in the report that Valentina has submitted, which I'm very happy. And in one of our latest position papers that you can find in our website, buying green and social from social enterprises. And what we have experienced at the Secretariat is that members faces 4 different types of obstacles in accessing public procurement. So the first one is lack of knowledge of public procurers on what the social economy is. The second one is also lack of knowledge of already available instruments under the Public Procurement Directive to foster socially responsible and green public procurement. And we go on to lack of appropriate procurement network frameworks at the national level. So we're speaking about inappropriate or not well-functioning public procurement legislation at the national level. And finally, the lack of data. So what we have observed is that we recommend then the European institutions to tackle these problems in different way. One of these is by providing capacity building opportunities for public procurers across the EU on what are the available opportunities for social economy access to public procurement, but also to utilize sectoral legislation, spatial environmental legislation like the EU Waste Framework Directive to contain social considerations within the green public procurement dispositions. And for national institutions, we recommend to make more use of market reservations, as Valentina has mentioned, but also dividing contract into smaller lots to facilitate access for smaller social enterprises. Absolutely also make use of pre-market consultations to get to know the characteristics and needs of social enterprises. And of course, more can be done. The public procurement directive is there, but it's largely unutilized, and very happy to continue the discussion in other settings, of course, but you can also find more in our position paper.
Thanks, Simone. Claire, going back to Ireland, one obstacle that we know can also prevent more social and green public procurement can be simply a lack of visibility of the social economy's impactful activities. And as inspiration for the audience, hopefully, please tell us about how CRNI is making sure that reuse, repair, and recycling social enterprises offers are on display for interested partners.
Yeah. So as some of you will know, if public authorities are going to tender and the value of the contract is over 25,000 or now over 50,000 because the threshold is increased, they have to advertise the tenders. And in Ireland, I think in other countries too, we have a platform called e-tenders where that advertisement is, and suppliers can register on the platform, and it helps make those connections. But if you're smaller than that, there is no platform. So again, it's a question of scale. And what the Community Resources Network did is try and create a platform where social enterprises working in this area can show both the type of procurement they do and really the diversity of different opportunities in that smaller scale to contracting authorities. So you can visit, it's 24 hours a day open, this virtual space, and you can go to greenandsocial.virtualeventspace.io, and I'm sure we can circulate that afterwards. And when you enter this platform, you can see different themes of procurement, so furniture, reducing plastic, and then you can visit the stands of each of the social enterprises working in that space and engage with an avatar, for example. But really, as I said, it shows that big diversity of opportunities at, small scale, 5,000, 10,000 euros. And we were really pleased to see in the new government draft Green Public Procurement Strategy that this platform was referred to as a really innovative and important way to connect social enterprises in.
I am very excited and proud of all of us to keep such excellent track of time. We are doing really great. So audience, prepare your questions because we will have time. Now turning to EuroCities work, Danko, and the Big Buyers Working Together project, which is under your oversight. So how is your organization overall, and this project in particular, addressing the need for public buyers to better implement green and socially responsible public procurement?
So thanks a lot for the question. So regarding Big Buyers Working Together project, it's worth mentioning that it's a third iteration of Big Buyers initiative. The project was launched in March this year, and it was financed by EISMEA, which stands for European Innovation Council and Small and Medium Enterprises Executive Agency. There are three partners, so EuroCities, CICLE, and BME from Germany. And this particular project supports collaboration between public buyers with strong purchasing power and promotes wider use of strategic public procurement for innovative and sustainable solutions. So we believe that working together and pooling their resources, cities, central purchasing agencies, and other major public buyers could maximize their power and make a considerable impact on the market. What is important to mention is that so within the project we are going to establish 10 communities of practices, and each community of practice will be devoted to purchase of specific product, work, or service where European cooperation or European collaboration is needed. Regarding these communities of practices, so we will have a circular construction, heavy-duty electric vehicles, zero-emission construction sites, digital, new European Bauhaus, social, solar, and two communities of practices which will be dealing with health sector. There is no one size fits all for community of practice. So each community of practice will define objectives and collaboration activities to effectively address the sector-specific challenges. and the side of benefits for participants in the community of practice. Of course, we believe that the project will result with outcomes which will be publicly available and used by other cities or local authorities. For example, it's worth mentioning that in previous big buyers, there are joint declaration of intent, so in circular construction, market gaps analysis, lessons learned, so joint statement of demand, so so many, let's say, useful outcomes which are publicly available.
Thank you. Now, Simone already mentioned some recommendations from the perspective of reuse as to how to improve access to public procurement for social enterprises. But now I would like to ask Valentina, having conducted the study and just generally been really engaged in this area. So the study you conducted for the European Parliament also brings important recommendations on improving social economy's access to public procurement opportunities. So what are the most crucial changes or measures that are needed in this regard?
Yes. So to facilitate access to public procurement, I fully subscribe to what Simone has already said. You need a combination of measures. So first of all, you need to have a favorable legal framework. And when I mean the legal framework, I do not only mean the public procurement transposition law. I also mean legal frameworks for the social economy. So in the study, there are examples from some member states where the provision on reserve contracts is not applicable simply because there is no law, no legal forms about what is a social enterprise there. No? So if you do not have this, of course, the provision remains more or less inapplicable. Then again on reserve contracts, we can see that threshold is too high. In some member states, they use, there is the national legislation that foresees reserve contracts also below the threshold of the EU. But it depends. So it's not the same in all member states. So whenever there is going to be a revision of the directive, a recommendation is to decrease the threshold. Use more pre-market consultations, networking, facilitate really the encounter between traditional, commercial enterprises and social economy enterprises, but also inform the public administration about what locally, let's say, or regionally, what the social economy can offer. Because another barrier is that not always contracting authorities are aware of what the social economy can offer in a tender. And finally, it's really, really important to have strategies on public procurement, ideally at national level, regional level, and local level. And in the strategies, the authorities should set objectives, a direction. We want to achieve this, and set targets. No? So, of course, it will be extremely difficult to require that all tenders have environmental, social, innovation considerations because it's on a voluntary basis. But by setting targets, so we want, 5% of tenders annually that have social considerations. No, this is a way to start and also to build the capacity of both contracting authorities and the social economy enterprises.
Thank you. So these were predominantly recommendations, of course, toward public authorities, rightfully so, since they have the power. But nevertheless, as mentioned also in the introduction, time and time again, we find that this relationship between social economy actors and local authorities is quite fundamental also. So Claire, to shift the lens a bit to the social economy itself, so based on your experience, what can social economy actors do to build and nurture this relationship and their local environment?
Yeah, so I suppose as a supplier and social enterprise, what we've tried to do is make it as attractive and easy as possible for local authorities to work with us. And I'll just share one example because I think it illustrates that best. We go to recycling centres and take unwanted water-based paint to take back to our workshop and mix and sell as good as new paint. And the local authorities responsible for the recycling centres are trained by us to put aside the paint that we can take. We've been expanding that activity, helping other social enterprises to start their own paint reuse projects, and now there are 25 recycling centres in Ireland that take the paint. So we've been really focusing on training and supporting both the social enterprises and also the local authorities. In our local area, local authority Fingal, which is in north of Dublin, has started to run annual tenders. They get requests for quotation, so they're about 3,000 to 5,000 euros to buy paint for their local community, so the local community can paint and make nice their area. And in their tenders, they say it has to be reconditioned paint from a recycling centre, so very specific. Now, it doesn't say social enterprise, but that is mainly who's supplying this paint. And through that tender last year, we supplied 1,600 litres and supported 22 communities. And on the back of that, we were able to develop guidelines for other local authorities to say, this is the type of clause you can use. This is how easy it is to just do a tender like this, support your local paint reuse activity, your local social enterprise, and to bring all the benefits to your community. So we're hoping to see more tenders like this around the country.
So basically, it's about sharing best practice examples directly with the local authorities to help them even create the language for the kind of tenders and so on. Thank you. That's very interesting, and also reminds me of what Danko was mentioning about the practices in construction sector. Indeed, especially in that sector, the circularity is crucial because of the embodied emissions that are involved. So we are also really trying to see if we can boost that. Now, Claire already spoke before a bit about the important role of consortia in accessing public procurement. So Simone, from the perspective of our network and the broader findings, what role can consortia play to facilitate social enterprises' access to public procurement opportunities?
Yes, so if on the one hand, the division of contract into smaller lots can allow social enterprises to better access such opportunities. On the other, policies that promote social enterprises coming together, joining forces, generating even greater impact, such as with consortia and also the formation of clusters, which oftentimes then succeed the formation of consortia. That can be another way to facilitate access to public procurement. And of course, on stage, we have a great example of impact generated in our network through Claire in Ireland. I also brought another example that we have within our network. This one comes from Circular Communities Scotland, so our Scottish member. And just to provide a few data on their impact, they created a RREUSE consortium of different social enterprises. And as of 2021, they brought together 12 social enterprises involved in waste management. So they provided more than 17,000 pre-owned essential households to local authorities, which in turn then provided them to nearly 8,000 households with specific necessities to access these essential items. And that also allowed saving up to 2,000 tons of CO2 emissions. So we're seeing a lot of examples from Ireland, but also from Scotland of how these public procurement opportunities not only have a social and environmental impact, but also more specifically a climate impact and economic impact. So there are so many different reasons why more public procurement should be leveraged to mobilize and upscale the activities of social economy enterprises.
We are 2 questions away from turning to you, just as a heads up. But Danko, you already mentioned that you will be launching these communities of practice. But I wonder overall what's coming up within your Big Buyers project, and especially how will you be empowering cities and municipalities in advancing a socially inclusive and circular economy in concrete terms?
So yes. Thanks. So after concluding of the needs assessment phase, so during which we reached around 140 public authorities in EU and EEA, so we are about to start launching communities of practices. The first one will be launched basically this week. So during this weekend, it will be the community of practice on zero emission construction sites, so which will be led by City of Oslo. Next one will be solar community of practice, and third one will be heavy duty electric vehicles. And after that, so we still don't know the order, but we will be launching them one by one. Regarding concrete terms, as you asked for, I would like to tell you that members of our communities of practices will take part in regular community COP meetings. During those meetings, they will receive the latest updates on pilots, market intelligence. They will be supported in developing tender documentation and criteria. They will take part in market dialogue sessions in variety of formats, both individual and with individual suppliers and group of suppliers. They will take part in various study visits and learning expeditions all over Europe. So we will organize capacity building sessions with external experts. We will have producers pitching sessions, and also the COP members will be collaborating on common market statements. So I hope that it is concrete enough, but yes, members will gain a lot of opportunity through participation in this project.
Wonderful. So the future is bright for social economy sector and access to public procurement, thanks to activities such as that. Now, as a final a ready-made question, let's say, as mentioned in the introduction, Valentina, you also work for the European Association for Innovation. Innovation in local. Innovation in local development. I apologize. I think I misspoke it in the introduction, including the EU Green Public Procurement Help Desk project. And so maybe to wrap up this first round, what are the lessons from green public procurement practices that could help enhance socially responsible public procurement?
Yes. So as you all know, I guess green procurement is more advanced than socially responsible public procurement. Why? Because it started earlier, and also because green procurement is more, let's say, tangible objective, no? While social aspects are a bit, it's more difficult to define them and to quantify. What can be learned? In parallel, so the Public Procurement Directive doesn't establish any obligation when it comes to environmental considerations. So contracting authorities can decide, so they have the freedom to decide if to include environmental considerations like social considerations. So just to say that they are all on a discretionary level, no, on the same level. But in the environmental field, what has been done is that they've been set up some criteria. So the green public procurement criteria, some of them are discretionary, so they can, contracting authority can decide if to apply them or not. In some member states, there is a legislation that sets out mandatory criteria. So there are discussions saying, could mandatory social criteria could be established as well? So this could be one possibility, one avenue. Another avenue is that in the environmental field, there have been many sectoral EU legislation, so directives, that have imposed, that have contained provisions on public procurement. So the same can be done in the social field, and there are already some examples. So the Minimum Wage Directive contains a provision on public procurement. The same goes for the Pay Transparency Directive, so equal pay for women and men for the same occupation. So this is starting also in the social field, and by cross-referencing provisions in different directives, it's also a way to ensure a better enforcement and use of the but again, I would say it's really important to set targets, because now, as I said, provisions are in the Public Procurement Directive only discretionary. So if there is a strategy at national, local, regional level that sets out some targets, it's a way to achieve something more.
Thank you very much. Everybody did really, I'm very grateful that you did so well with keeping your answers concise, so that now we have an opportunity to turn to the audience. Our wonderful colleague Florence, I think, might have a microphone to be able to pass out if anybody would like to. You can ask a question to a panel. You can also share your reflection from your own experience, but we have a little time that I first want to give to you before. I'm sure that the speakers here could keep going and cross-referencing one another. But is there anybody who would like to take the floor? Questions, comments, reflections? Giorgio, please. We will, Florence will bring you the microphone so we can hear you well.
My name is Giorgio.
Yeah, but
It's not good for translating.
Good. My name is Giorgio. Closer. I come from Italy, and I work in a consortia that, in one sense, made a big success in environmental services. We collect waste, we clean cities, and we did this through reserved tenders, and sometimes also with social clauses. So we participate with profit organization. Many times these organizations are not for profit, but are cooperatives. And we work for many millions of euros, and this means a lot of work for our members. But one thing that I would ask if you have experienced in your work is that many times is not a matter of reserved tender, but the problem is that there are other requirements in the tender that usually, if you are too small, is difficult to meet. I'm referring about safety requirements, environmental requirements, fiscal requirements, and all those things, certification, quality, environmental, that is difficult for a small entity to have all at once. Another thing, the second consideration, and I go with Valentina, there is no expertise in evaluating a social body that is participating to a reserved tender. In the commissions, usually there are technicians. They know very well about painting, but they don't know anything about what's happening in a social. And this, I think, is a kind of thing that maybe could be asked to have, because this means like equal opportunity. One question?
So you're turning your last point to Valentina, and the first one to whoever would like to comment. Let's start with the second point then.
Yes, I start with the second one. So thank you very much with this question, because it's very relevant. SRPP, as the same could be said about green procurement, innovation procurement, cannot be done only by procurers. So you need to work in a team, you need to work with the specific expertise. That means that in a contracting authority, ideally, public procurers should work with their colleagues in charge of social employment, social economy policies, no? I see someone who is saying no, but this is the way, in my opinion, it's the only way to go ahead. It's also important, you cannot have a procurer who is knowledgeable about everything. You need a specialization. So ideally, of course, this is impossible in a very small municipality, but bigger contracting authorities should have procurers who are specialized in social procurement, in green procurement, in innovation, and should work together. So it's a specialization. It's working with other colleagues from other departments. It's also consulting experts outside the contracting authority. It can be independent experts, it can be stakeholders to really design the tenders. And I repeat again, preliminary market consultations are not used a lot, while they are really an essential tool to scope out the capacity of the market, but also to build the expertise and to favor a bit a dialogue between the market, the different actors, and the contracting authorities. This is the only way I would see. For sure, for a small contracting authority, this is extremely demanding. So this is also why and I think it's something that maybe Eurocities is doing, maybe if I'm not wrong. So it's also about joint procurement. Joint procurement is when different contracting authorities, they put themselves together to buy together a different, a service or works or goods. This is another way. So in this way, you pool the expertise. You created, let's say, joint expertise. In some countries, you have more and more central purchasing bodies. Sometimes at national level, they are linked with a specific ministry, sometimes at regional level. This is another way.
Thank you. Do other panelists have any reaction to George's input? And also, you're welcome to share reflections. I forgot to invite you because I was so eager to turn to the audience that if there's anything you would like to reflect on what other people said or anything you would like to add, of course, you're also welcome to.
Just add very quickly. So thanks for the question. Definitely one of the challenges identified during the survey that we had. And nothing more particular to say than to confirm what you said. Yes, so either procurement through central purchasing agency or joint procurements. That's the best solution. So this is something, let's say, issue mentioned by several public authorities that we contacted, and we also hope that through the project we will learn together about best practices that exist.
And there was also the first question, no? Because about the, I fully understand that a social economy enterprise alone cannot have all the certifications. So what I would suggest is to try to be involved in a consortium with companies as a subcontractor. In this way, you participate in the tender, but so also really creating relationship with the private sector. This is very important.
Thank you. And I think, if I remember correctly, that we have someone representing public authorities who's holding the microphone, which is very exciting.
Is it working? Yes. Okay. So my name is Narjis bin Moussa. I'm from no. Vale, más cerca. Okay. So yeah, I'm representing Alliance de l'Emploi. We are a national network in France of local authorities. They're involved in employment, inclusion, integration, and upskilling competencies, etc. We are actually handling tools that are territorial tools as employment houses, local insertion plans, but also we have a network of social clause facilitators that we are actually implementing since 2009, I believe, and all over France. They are actually funded by the Ministry of Labor, if I'm not wrong. So we are all over 500 facilitators all over France. They are serving as a bridge between local authorities, businesses, etc. And they are there to ensure that all the local stakeholders are mobilized to make sure that public procurement is actually working and to facilitate the whole process, because it's not easy for everyone to understand the process of public procurement. And we as a national network, we provide also training for these facilitators, especially when a new person is coming on a new job position, and usually they don't have many background on procurements. So that's what we are doing. So I would be very happy to provide any further information in French experience regarding the public procurement. We are also starting to talk about the environmental, the green clauses as well. In other topic, we are trying to also implement training clauses, but it's very, those are very tiny experimentation that we are actually highlighting through European projects in some territories in France, especially when it comes to energy efficiency of buildings. So it's a very specific thing where it's not like a national thing, it's really proper to territories. So I would be very happy to provide more information. I'm so sorry I can't stay much longer because I have a train to catch, but I will leave my cards, visit cards for here, so feel free. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, and thank you very much for joining us. We can take, to honor the fact that we have another panel, we can take one more question or intervention from the audience if anybody would like, and otherwise we will hand it back to the panelists. Yes, please, over there. To speak closely to the microphone. And like I asked the panelists, I will ask you to keep it concise.
Just want to precise why I say no when you say that public officers should know about social enterprise, because it's much difficult as it seems, because many times there is no economic direction in social enterprise in public authorities, so it begins with that. I want to illustrate with the case of Strasbourg, which was explained in the morning, which use the local government use the tool of in English SGEI. Okay.
Services of general economic interest.
Yeah, and it helps very much to involve the services by social enterprise and NGO. But it was allowed because since 12 years there is a social economic council in the city whose goal is to acculturate the services of the public authority. And it's hard because it's very separated. And as an example, we participate to a part of a work of a French obligation, which is a promotional plan for responsible and sustainable purchase in public authorities, up to 100 million euros, and yet 50 million. And we participate to this plan to acculturate the services all with social clauses allowed our enterprise to enter this market. But it takes long time to have such results in a town as Strasbourg.
Thank you. Yeah, quick comment, yes?
Yes. No, not about this. I thank you very much. I take the opportunity to inform that we are running a new service contract on socially responsible public procurement on behalf of the European Commission, together with ICLEI Europe, the ESIS network, and the REV, which is the European network of regions and cities for the social economy. And this project has just started. We are going to organize training events in 12 member states. So it's Austria, Belgium, Cyprus, Bulgaria, Estonia, Spain, Finland, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Portugal, and Slovenia. And also a communication campaign on the benefits of SRPP EU-wide. So you will receive the information later on, but if you are interested, you can find my email address. Please contact me.
Thank you, Valentina. All right, now I will increase the heat here for a very final round. 2 minutes was a big challenge, but now I will make it bigger. Namely, in closing, what is the key message, the one key message that you would really like the audience to take away from this panel, even if they forget everything else? And you have 30 seconds each. So I'll start with that.
Okay, so 30 seconds. Yes, so key message is that public procurements are a key tool in transition towards circular economy. And also to use the opportunity to invite all of you to check Public Buyers Community Platform web page launched in April this year. So a lot of useful information could be found there.
I gave the speakers an indication this would happen, and I said, make it an elevator pitch type response, and you really did. Well, you pitched the project very well, so you know where to find further information. Next, off to you, Valentina.
So my pledge is that SRPP is complex, but it is possible. We need ambassadors. We need to believe in it. We need to collaborate and work together, disseminate good practices, and help each other. So we are all ambassadors, so let's do our job.
Great appeal, mobilizing the crowds. Perfect. Claire, please, your final words.
I guess for us at the moment in Ireland anyway, it's about exploring the opportunities at small scale for procurement and the real diversity of what can be done at that level.
Please, Simone, I'm speechless. Claire, I don't know. We have to fill 20 seconds. No, thank you very much. Simone, please.
Mine is probably a little bit cheesy, but I would say knowledge is power. So gathering all the innovations and data from social enterprises via networks, via social economy conferences like this one, they are really powerful tools to gather data on all the incredible impact of the ecosystem, drive policy change, including also public procurement, make it work for what it should be doing, contributing to public objectives and prosperity.
Thank you so much. So this concludes panel 1. I hope that we demonstrated that there is indeed a lot to gain from procuring from social enterprises, that there are a lot of opportunities. Challenges are great, but there are great ideas as well. And it takes willpower and joint power, some activism sometimes, and mobilization like our panelists did. So I invite you to stay here for the next part, which will be very, very interesting because it will focus on a really outstanding, I would say, law within the EU. But I will leave that to the next panel to introduce. Just give us now a little bit of time to make this change. But thank you so much for being here and for your attention, and to all the panelists. Thank you.